Yo, Steve.
Hey Barry, how you doing, man?
Yo, how do you pronounce your last name?
Lolli, like lollipop.
Um, Let me say two things. Uh, it's okay. You see me good this way?
Yeah, you're good. I can hear you and I can see you.
Okay, so let me give you a heads up, which I think I spoke to you about. Number one, sorry, I had to request the link. The link was a different look, so I learned that links look different, just like ugly bitches. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I gave you a heads up that I'm outside and I'm hooked up to a rest. It's funny to me. I'm hooked up to a restaurant's Wi-Fi and I'm sitting on their outside table. So two things may occur. I don't have all the bars right now because I think I got to be more inside the restaurant. Sorry for that truck noise in the background. That's number one. This may be a very interesting podcast because you may hear an ambulance or somebody getting mugged at any minute. So this is going to be a very interesting podcast. That's number one or number five. I don't know. I lost count, Steve. Secondly, I think with one little bar, I don't think we're going to freeze. But if we freeze, that'll be fucked up. I'll be walking inside the restaurant and with a mask on and they'll go, what the fuck is going on? The other thing is, I only know you from social media and shit. And I guess both of us are grinders, if you will. I'm out here in 90-degree New Jersey humidity for the love of the craft. And if we could get a close-up, which we're not, this is the time of the year where you get mustache sweat. So perhaps, and sorry for rambling on, but I'm a rambler. This may be the time of the year where mustache sweat to grow a fucking mustache or beard. Oh, man. Okay, back to you, Steve. I've rambled enough.
Well, Barry, it's good to know that you got rid of your mustache just in time for the podcast. And I love that you did give me a heads up. For those of you who will be watching this, he did give me a heads up that he will be outside. I believe is this the same place where you do your ribs rants, or is this a different place?
Yo, the ribs rants is across the street. Obviously taping video. I don't need the Wi-Fi. And yo,
I didn't know you did it live. I didn't know you taped it. I thought you did it live. I didn't know.
Yo, in the beginning of the pandemic, I used to do Facebook Live for everyone's sanity, Steve.
Yeah.
And you know what happened? There's a dude, Tommy Pena. He's really a good dude. As you know, Steve, there are good dudes and there are dudes that maybe we should never see. And maybe some in between too, Steve, you know? So Tommy Pena said to me a few years ago, he said, yeah, you should go on the internet and tape shit and talk about stuff that ticks you off. And that's where I came up with the title. But it was his kind of idea along the lines of maybe your dude Pepitone, or I bet you know the name. I would guarantee, I would bet $5 because I'm broke that you know the name Vic DiBitetto.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So Vic is about the rants. So that's where I came up with the title Ribs Rants. And you know something, Steve? For the younger dudes, and you got to say females also. I don't think they want to be called dudes in comedy. And we got to be PC nowadays. So let's say to the young comedians, who are starting out or 1 to 5 years in. And more than likely, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You don't have your voice, etc. Steve and I are veterans. I'm doing this over 27 years. So what I'm alluding to is this. People could make suggestions and shit. Like Tommy said, yo, I like the idea of you riffing on shit that bugs the hell out of you. But ideally, it's got to come from your gut. It just like I know you write jokes for artists, which is an amazing feat. That is amazing. You got to have a real gift to do that shit. It's the same thing. Only Steve and Barry and everybody else can truly write the jokes because it really comes from the gut. It comes from your life and shit. For you to write for others, wow, fucking amazing, yo. So I tell the young people that are watching this shit, it's okay to hear people's suggestions, but ideally and ultimately, it's got to be really you. So I did the ribs rants. I got a feeling, Steve, you saw also maybe ribs on ribs. Did you see that where I was eating ribs?
No, I saw Ribs Rants and I saw it on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
And that was why I invited you to initially so people can get a little behind the scenes. You were one of the first people that I invited initially before I even really knew what this was going to be. Because I had seen you and I just thought you were a funny character and didn't know much about you. I like New York comedy. I like big city comics and I like old school people who kind of had to fight their way out of someplace. That's my taste, you know. Growing up watching Richard Pryor and George Carlin and so on and so forth. So yeah, I saw your ribs and it was funny. And so yeah, that's what I saw.
You know, Steve, as you know, and this conversation, for those who are really serious about a career, and there's many, I have no idea how many eyeballs see this, but
not many.
Well, everything.
We have a small devoted audience.
Steve, everything takes time, as you know. So the thing is this. I run into comedians, obviously, all the time. And the newer ones, a lot of them came up on non-call and they came up on no talent reality shows. And I know there's younger comics that know me and they come over to me, and if they're respectful and they truly want to pick the brain and they're professional, I got all the time in the world for them. Back to Ribs Rants. Yeah, that is definitely my lane. Sometimes it has to be reinvented. Ribs on Ribs, quickly, was the brainchild of two comedians named Jeff Cerulli and TJ Del Reno. As you can see, I give props to everybody. I'm guessing you are that dinosaur also, because most comedians are narcissistic with a capital N, and they forget that they wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for their colleagues and or fans. They forget that stuff. So yeah, I am old school. I'm a man of a certain age. I just had a birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you. I had a birthday 2 days ago. And Steve, man, I had to tell the people, thank you. I can't get back to everybody individually. I now and others saying that. I used to think they used to just shake off and they didn't want to show love back. Whoa. There's so many.
Yeah, you're getting caught with ideas.
Say thank you and stuff to everybody. It's impossible now. And lately, matter of fact, yes, I said thank you for the birthday wish, and they still keep pouring in, man. So I got to stop thanking people. I got to stop, because anybody that watches this, thank you. And I can't get back to everybody. And I've seen it, but I can't get back. So, but getting back to Cerulli and TJ Del Reno, we had ribs on ribs where it was a fascinating premise. I was trying different ribs from different restaurants, and then the brainchild, Cerulli and TJ, they're kind of comic, maybe it's an overstatement, comic geniuses. They would ask me questions, not only about the ribs, but they would ask me shit that had nothing to do with the fucking ribs. And I'll tell you something, Steve. Let me see, I got oh, okay. The ribbon goes by, and I thought it was the landlord saying, yo, when is the fucking rent coming? I'm a little paranoid about
It's all part of the no idea.
Anybody watching, never give your landlord your cell phone number. Get another phone and shit. Otherwise, you'll see a ribbon you don't like, and it'll throw me off my comedic brain right now. It'll get me. Anyway, so we had ribs on ribs, and he didn't want to put it on IG. That's Jeff Cerulli, and we had a little tiff. For those of you that are really street people, we had a motherfucking fight. We had Steve, what do they call it? A disagreement. That's
a beef. You had a beef.
We had a beef, as we say in the hood. Anyways, I've rambled on. Back to you, Steve.
Yeah. So you did ramble on, and I don't mind it, because when you ramble, that's less time that I have to carry the show. So I appreciate it. But it's pleasurable for me to hear you ramble and rant. This is my sense of humor. So I do want to direct it a little bit. I do want to get to a couple of points. So first off,
yes.
Eventually I want to get to the point where you can sort of tell us your little comedy journey, because you've had, from what I perceive, a very unique comedy journey. You started as a grown man, basically. You didn't start like I did at 19.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, Steve.
So I want to get
27 years ago.
Okay, so that's odd, because you started a couple of years before me, but I was a kid. I was a kid.
Yep.
So I want to get to that.
That could be. Steve. We got to do a part 2 on this shit, because when you start, Steve, man, this is going to be a great conversation. Man, you got me onto something now, Steve. There are, as you know, historically, going back to Alan Bursky, who did the Tonight Show, and what's the dude, Byron Allen. Steve, those are 2 perfect examples of starting fucking young, man. And then you got people starting 25, 35, 45, maybe even older. And I feel for you in a sense. And some of the New York dudes, one dude started, I think, 14. And this is what I feel for the teens who grow up in this crazy fucking world, man, and learn shit from somebody like me who's fucking disturbed to begin with. Like, you're
Peter Boyle and Taxi Driver, and they're Robert De Niro coming to you for advice. You're fucking Peter Boyle.
Get yourself real parents, man. Do not ask. I'm trying to learn what this life is about. I feel for you, man. Get yourself some parents, man. Oh, this is fascinating. I am so glad you mentioned. I am so glad. Oh, man. I've been on a few podcasts, And I've been wanting to say this shit. I've been wanting to say this. Steve, I'm going to pray for you starting at 19, rubbing elbows with dudes older. In a sense, I should pray for me because my uncle was a comedian and I was watching him in nightclubs when I was 10 years old. So Steve, pray for me also.
Was he your was that your sort of because you started what, you were 35, 40. How old were you when you started stand-up?
Well, I'm really sensitive about the age thing because a club owner first year said I was too old for his club.
Well, then just give me the year. Just give me the year.
But I started in 94. And Steve, a year from now, next birthday, God willing, I think I'm going to go public and say my age like as if people give a fuck.
What was Christopher Lloyd's role on Taxi? You remember his character on Taxi?
You want to know something? People will be surprised, including you, that I didn't watch much of Taxi or any of the great shows. I don't even want to tell you some of the movie. I'm not telling anybody, including you. There's some incredible movies Ribs has never seen. So I honestly don't even remember if I watched a full episode of Taxi, even present content. I can't even have a conversation with people and they go, did you see blah, blah, blah? No, I didn't. I haven't had a TV in 10 years.
I think there was something in one of your rants or one of your posts where you said for a decade you did not have a television.
For 10 freaking years, no TV. I got Netflix on my phone thanks to my son. He gave me the password months ago. Yo, Steve, I got a problem sitting down and watching content. I got a problem with that. When I get home after a show, blah, 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 I go right to YouTube. If I remember, I'll watch Netflix if I remember. I'm hooked right now on your boy out there, Bobby Lee and his podcast. That is my new... I like watching Bobby Lee's podcast, man.
Podcast, Tiger Belly. It's a good podcast.
I like watching it, and there's when he is transparent about who the fuck he is and where he comes from, I say, man, I wish that was me, Steve. You know, I keep a lot, man, I'm loving this fucking talk with you. I keep a lot of stuff to myself, you know, Steve?
Yeah, it's probably for the best. But hey, so you're not really a shows and movies guy. You're more of a podcast guy. You want something authentic as opposed to something sort of overproduced and polished.
If you wanted to make that comparison, no, I kind of regret, Steve, as you know, the word on the street, there's a lot of great content out there, Steve, a lot. And I'm out of the conversation, sadly, okay? But you know, Steve, in the comedy community, there's a lot of talk about things are changing where those Hollywood sitcoms that have the same rhythm and they have the same scripts, only the characters and the actors are changed. So from what I hear out there, we are living in some great times artistically where people like ourselves are not dependent on gatekeepers. As you probably know, Just for Laughs dude just resigned. What's his name, Steve?
I don't remember. I think I know something about what you're saying, but I don't
This
remember.
dude, the gatekeeper for Just for Laughs Montreal, man, he just resigned yesterday. So there's a big shift in our industry. Um, his name skips my mind, but yes, I do. I'll tell you, yo, Steve, I'll tell you why I love podcasts in general. I love when they interview our colleagues and they tell their story, whether it's Todd Barry or many others. You learn their journey. I find it fascinating because you and I and everybody else ideally have individual journeys.
Right, and that's what we want to hear about you today. We want to hear a little bit about your. I'm curious because I think it's harder to start in some ways, in some respects, when you're not young. I mean, I'm grateful that I did start when I was young, but
Yeah.
but I wasn't a fully formed person, and I didn't have experiences. I had no experience, so from the point of like what I could talk about or what I had the courage to make funny was definitely
Yes.
took a lot longer, and
Yes. Of course. Yo, we're gonna have to do part 2, part 3, Steve, because I'm long-winded, as you know, and this is my kind of conversation, man.
okay, 94. So just take me to 94 or around that time, and give me some, if you can, some idea of what was going through your mind, what your life was like, and that stuff is fascinating to me. So please share some of that.
Let, let's yo, Steve, I did an open mic February 94 and 90 to 93. I wanted to kind of go behind the scenes like I did in LA. I worked in a couple when I was in LA. I lived in LA 1975 to 1981, and I was practically living at the Comedy Store. I'm going to try to give you a shorter version. So fast forward, I moved back to the East Coast. 93, I got the bug. I want to go behind the scenes again. I want to work in an agency or a management company behind the scenes. And I had at least 2 interviews. I met the founder of the Improv, Bud Friedman's ex-wife, Silver Friedman. 2 interviews and meeting her. And my gut told me, there we go back to the gut. My gut told me nobody was going to give me a job. And 27 years ago, I was 27, close to 30 years ago, I was 30 years younger. And I felt they're not going to touch an older dude as an intern. And the bulb went off in my brain. And I said, fuck these people. I'm going to empower myself. And I'm going to go on stage because nobody can stop me. And deep down inside, since I was 6 years old, and you'll really dig this and you'll get it, at 6 years old, on some level, disrupting the class, on some level, that's what I wanted to fucking do. That's what I wanted to do. I was acting out.
Yeah, you can't do that as a corporate intern. You can't do that in a management company, really.
Yeah, because aside from the fact that I am naturally funny, I also have a gift for seeing talent in other artists. I have at least 2 gifts. So I used to say early on in my career, I was, so not non-creative. I said I was the class clown. No, I've updated it. At 6 years old, I was probably the youngest stand-up on the fucking planet. And my uncle, as I told you, I would watch him perform live. I really don't know what was going on in my head at that time. Like, oh, I want to do what my uncle's doing. The only thing I can remember feeling watching him is that's my uncle, and I feel special, you know. And the waiter at the table, it was a nightclub. The waiter gave me like VIP service, man, you know. And my uncle did not like the business. I didn't follow up with a question. He certainly, because of his disdain for the business, he did not want to bring his nephew into it. And as you could understand, when you were born and called to do this, nothing is going to stop you. And so 1993, 2 interviews, I went back to what I always should have been doing, Steve. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you did an open, like anybody, you did an open mic. That was your first show, was an open mic, and
Yep.
and then you basically just you stayed in New York. You came through those New York clubs, and you do tour. I do see you because I follow you, on social media. I do see you travel and tour and stuff in the Northeast anywhere, sometimes in the Midwest. Do you have any plans to get out again now that things are opening up?
You know something? Year one, I wanted to be the road warrior. But Steve, now 27 years later, and where my head's at right now on a personal, I got personal stuff I gotta kind of take care of mentally, if you will, because I think um, human beings have really had a rough go. Human beings have had a rough go with this pandemic and lockdown. It's really psychologically hurt, in my humble opinion, the majority of human beings. And as a sensitive artist, it's really fucked with me. So uh, to be on the road right now, away from the nest, not going to work for me. And I see, like, I don't mind dropping a name. I've performed 10 times with D.L. Hughley, pretty much on the Northeast.
He loves
And
having you open up for him when he's out, when he's in your neck of the woods.
yeah, I have an invite when he comes, New York, tri-state area, just, be ready to get a call. So I've been with him 10 times. And as you said, sorry for that fucking
No, it's
truck.
all right. It's all right. That's part of the no idea zone. We don't mind it, Barry.
Um, so I basically, as you mentioned, I've been doing the tri-state, and I've done LA and Florida. I haven't done the Midwest. I certainly have some towns on the bucket list. Um, I do my home club. I got 2 home clubs in New York and New Jersey. But someday I look forward to the road warrior thing. But as your viewers will learn, if they don't know, being on the road can be a horrible existence and a lonely one, where you do shows and then you go back to your hotel room and jerk off. And if I someday, if I get on the road and I got 2 nights or more in a town, I would like to explore the town and kind of live some life, because the life of a stand-up, traveling stand-up to the civilian, is not as glamorous,
No,
and
it's not.
it looks like it's a great life. I think you have to know how to make it a great life. I that's why, as an aside, that's why I'm so anti-heckling and anyone disturbing my show and looking at their phone in front of my face. I go off on those motherfuckers because we artists, we are sacrificing kind of our lives for your enjoyment, and now you're shitting on us. I really got a problem with that. I'm sorry I took it as an aside,
No, no,
Steve,
okay,
but
go on, brother. Go on.
so I got a real problem with that. And we got a dude that a lot of comics know, Gary Goulman. Yo, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that disrespect in front of him, man, and in front of me either. Yo, and but this is a individual sport, so comics are going to do what comics are going to do. There's no union rep. Our comics are going to work below their value. It's this game of stand-up and entertainment acting is not for everybody. It is an incredibly rough challenge, but on some level, I fucking love it and need it.
Well, you also have, I mean, you if DL is having you open up for him, I also saw you open up for my friend Lunell, who's one of my oldest friends in comedy. Or you did a show
Yo,
with her sometime recently.
well,
So
you know what? I said hello to Lunell in Arizona. I've been on shows with her. She does use two of my friends. She doesn't use me that way. And Lunell, you know what is so cool, Steve? That the Lunells of the world are fans of Barry Ribs. When I know this sounds kind of corny, but when you see at the award shows and they receive their trophy, they go, to get voted by my peers, blah, blah, blah. It is so true. Obviously, DL's a fan of mine and Lunell, but I've never per se featured for her.
okay. I misunderstood. I thought you
Yeah,
were opening for her.
yeah. I visited her in the green room when she was in Tempe, Arizona, and I had forgot. Yo, this is a great story. I forgot. She asked me, "Do you remember the first time we met?" And I forgot. Well, the first time we met, if you will, she was just watching a show in Midtown Manhattan, and I left, and I hear a call, "Yo!" I don't know. It got my attention, and it was Lunell. I was about a block away. Yo! And she gave me some praise. No superstar would ever fucking do something like that except her.
Yeah, she's never changed. She's never changed. I mean, I've known her for almost 20 years now.
Yeah, I only know her a solid 5 or 10, and how I forgot that. My memory now, my memory, stress or older age, is still either insanely great or fucking piss poor, man.
Right.
And
No, but it's part of getting older. I'm noticing it. I'm in my mid 40s and I'm noticing that I can remember things that are completely unnecessary in detail. And then there are things that are critical that are, I can't, people's names, places, dates, I can't remember for the life of me. Or people, I'll get one confused with the other, like, was it Jason or was it Bill? Jason and Bill kind of look like each other. So I can, that shit's starting to happen to me now.
yo, when she reminded me, I knew immediately. I knew immediately, man. But I had forgotten for the moment. And that was a beautiful thing for a superstar. Lunell is in such great shape physically and mentally right now off of this pandemic, man. She is like she is re-energized, man. Yo, God bless Lunel. That's all I could say.
There's a few people, you know, there are a few people who they got success and it didn't warp them. You know, a cat got a little nuts with his fame, and I saw that. I was there for that, and I knew Tiffany. You know, I knew Tiffany Haddish really early on. We were pals, so I came through that whole circuit in L.A. You know, and that's what
Gotcha.
Lunel, and I know Lunel from there, and then other people like Tony Roberts and people who didn't get as much massive fame but were just as talented. You know, and Lunel is one of the few people who
Yeah.
she'll still take my call. She'll still, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. You know, she's just the same person she was probably 30, 35, 40 years ago. And
Yeah.
it's a nice thing. It's a nice thing. So, and now you came also through, and this is where we have a little bit of similarity. You are one of the few white guys, period, in the East Coast to come through black clubs. I don't know how much you did that, but if you could speak to some of that, I would be interested. I think people out there would be interested to hear about that.
Yeah. So I started 94 and I didn't start journalizing my gigs until 2004, but 2002, and I don't know exactly the day because I didn't journalize. It was approximately 2002, December, last month of that year. I heard about an urban show in Greenwich Village, New York City. And it was hosted by a dude, Talent, and a dude, Will Sylvins. And a comic named Sasha Guillaume. I overheard him talking about this Sunday show, and he was generous enough to give me some info. And Steve, I got a shot to do it. I didn't know anything about it, how hot a show it was. It was packed. And the great thing, or one of the great things about what we do, sometimes you have the pleasure, etc., of doing some great ass fucking shows, man. And I probably forgot half of the great shows I've done, unless I look at my journal. So I did the show, had no expectations, but I've heard recently that was a tough crowd. That was like the Apollo crowd. When I went up there, they embraced me. I had looking like me in that setting can go against me, or it could be, let's kind of take a listen and see where this dude's at. And it went well with shitty material. I did not become a joke writer, I believe, until afterwards, because when you're an urban comedian and you're getting stage time and you're dealing with crowds that can be challenging, as they say, you become a joke writer. I have learned through years of experience, the only way you become a joke writer is being on the stage. I was a horrible writer because I started mainstream initially. I was the fucking worst. Now compared to the worst, I'm a great fucking writer.
Well, the bottom's fallen out, so that's helped you.
Yo, Steve, let me tell you, I prayed to God for years. I literally prayed to God in those days. Please, I felt to write a good joke, and I prayed. And anybody that's watching that's new, that has an,
You're breaking up a little.
if I can become a great joke writer, trust me, you can also.
Your feed is getting a little tricky, but we got most of that story. So that's the main thing. It's what's weird is
Yeah.
first time I ever played a black comedy club was February of 2002. So it was the same year as you.
Yes.
Different coast, Mixed Nuts Comedy Club on Washington Crenshaw, and I was shitting my pants. But the experience I had there, and I don't want to make this all about me because this is your time, but I'll just say this as a parallel to you. The experience I had there altered my sense of what I could do as a comedian. Uh, I didn't really think I could be. I thought this was more of a hustle to get some job or a better life, that this would lead me somewhere. But I think after that show in February of 2002, I thought, oh wow, I mean, I might be good at this. Like I might be able to become very good at this.
Gotcha.
And instead of just, this is a hustle so I can get a job on a TV station or something, you know?
Gotcha.
And so it's interesting though, same year, different side of the continent.
Yep. And different side of the calendar year too, right?
Different side of the calendar year. Well, I had just gotten to LA. And I was deciding whether I was going to even continue as a stand-up comedian. I didn't tell a lot of people that, but it's so hard to get on in a new city. And when you don't know anybody and nobody wants to put you on, and not that they should, but you don't know where to go. You don't know anybody. It's very, very hard. And
it is, man.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody who was a comedian. I knew a couple people who were actors and who were trying to get into the show business, but nobody who knew into anything about stand-up or had any connection to that. So somebody said to me, there's a club on Washington. They gave me somebody I ran into gave me a list of clubs, and one of them was that one. And
what was the name of that club?
It's called Mixed Nuts.
Is it still there?
No, it was a long time standing, only black club for about 10 years in LA. Between the time the Comedy Act Theater closed and the time that the Comedy Union opened, this was the only club, blacks.
And who was the host of that?
The host of that show was Bo P. Do you know Bo P?
I can actually say I don't even know the name, you know?
Okay, Bo P was the host on the weekdays, and on the weekends, it was Speedy and Chalant. Speedy would host on Friday, Chalant would host on Saturday. Speedy you didn't want to go on Friday. And then, because he was one of the worst. He was there to throw up obstacles in your path. He would introduce me as, hey, your next comic is Steve. He wouldn't even say my last name. You know, shit like that.
I was just talking about a host yesterday. Worst host imaginable. It really bugged the fuck out of me. This dude, I thought I was being like pranked. I wasn't on the show. He just said coming up next, and just said the comic's full name, no adjectives, no credits, nothing. And I said, I never seen the dude before. Back to you, Steve. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. But you kind of expect to experience that as a white comic in a black club. I mean, everyone showed me respect. People were really generous to me. They invited me everywhere. To be, I did well, but the generosity that I experienced in black comedy clubs was beyond what I deserved. I think it's fair to say, it's not an understatement to say, it's way beyond what I deserved. So what that guy was doing on Friday nights was a minor thing. And we also had a guy named Mad Marv. I don't know if you ever heard of this guy.
Well, your name's on the West and our name's on the East. A lot of times there's no sort of connect. You know what I mean?
Crossover. No.
Yeah. You got your names. the only names that you and I would kind of know, switching back, are the dudes of a certain level, you know?
Right. Like Alex Thomas, the people who get bigger, but yes, the middle level comics, no, they don't kind of cross over. It's true. Because they can't sell tickets when they go out of town because nobody knows them, And but
Yep.
it is interesting that you came up through those rough hosts. We had this guy named Mad Marv, and he ran a Tuesday nights at Mixed Nuts, and this is pre-Obama, right? Pre-Obama, because when Obama became president, it was like everything got a little quieter in black comedy. Everybody, all the gangsters started wearing suits and ties, out here anyway. But pre-Obama was still very hardcore Def Jam comedy, and there was a guy named Mad Marv, and you did not want to go on Mad Marv's show. It was like throwing raw meat to the lion's den. I still, to this day, and after doing this 25 years, would probably opt out doing a show like that. I think I did it once, and I got booed off. So,
Do you know? You just mentioned. You just remind. I really regret that I didn't keep a journal in general from day one. Because if there's a market for me someday, I'm going to write a book. Steve. And sadly, I'm going to forget. But you just triggered. Sorry to use the key word nowadays. Triggered. You reminded me of a show in a town in Jersey called Irvington. And I think where are you from on the East again? I forgot.
well, I'm originally from Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. Okay.
Yeah, but I started my stand-up. I was in college in Florida. So I started in the Southeast.
Yo, Steve, you reminded me. I honestly, because I'm an honest dude, to a fault.
So
My honesty has,
New Jersey.
huh?
Irvington, New Jersey.
Yeah, for those who have no clue, it's right next to Newark, New Jersey. And you reminded me, which thankfully I totally forgot.
I'm so glad I could unearth these horrible memories. But it's good.
Yo,
It's good for ratings.
Yo, Steve. Oh, by the way, we're getting a little drizzle and shit. And yeah, we may get some rain right around here. Anyway, how long we been talking?
We're
Maybe
good.
40 minutes already.
We got another 10. We got another 10 minutes we can go.
Yeah.
We got to hear
just
the
hope
Irvington, New Jersey story now. You open the
Yeah.
Pandora's box.
Yo, Steve. Oh shit, the rain is coming. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, this makes for a great podcast. Hold on.
It's all part of being in the know.
Hold on.
Folks.
I'm a little protected here, but
yeah, you got a little overhang there.
But Steve, this happened the other day. If the winds start kicking up, these umbrellas start flying and shit.
That's what we want on this show, Barry. Some action and adventure. That's what we need.
So Steve, if I disappear,
yeah,
you and your viewers are gonna know. So anyway, Irvington, I forget who the host was. It makes no sense. It's not important. It was a guest spot, and guest spots, as people know, viewers know.
They don't. Let me tell them. A guest spot is an unpaid spot. You're not really featured on the bill. You're basically just dropping in to do 7 or 10 minutes, and you're basically doing a free show showcasing for the club, right?
Yeah, but yo, Steve, I kid you not. Only comics would really chuckle, if you will. The host said, "Do 3 minutes and bounce." Yo, Steve, I've been very fortunate. I mean, I've had French fries thrown at me and almost got knocked out on sucker punches. But
this was a rough room. This was a rough room.
Yo, listen. The Irvington room host said what he said, and I listened to him. but I've done other places which triggers other memories. I've had drunk dudes ready to stand up and knock me the fuck out. And fortunately, security or bar owner would always kind of look out for me. Maybe older dude, you know. I've nearly come to be knocked out 2 or 3 times in different venues. Okay, so I guess the memory kind of filters out crap, whether it's personal or professional, in one's mind, because if you hold on to that shit, you can't move on in life, or you can't move on in career. So Irvington, 3 minutes and bounce. Have I ever gotten booed off? Probably. A boo off is so much better than almost getting knocked out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think on the East Coast, that shit probably happens a little more than on the West Coast. We don't have, although there is a comic whose name I won't mention, a white comic who had no business in a black room.
And he got knocked out.
I'll have Johnny Gold on one day, because he won't say he was friends with the guy, but he knew the guy. I met the guy through John Gold. But anyway, this was a black room in Inglewood, and he called a woman a bitch. He's a white guy calling a black woman a bitch. And I think she knifed him after the show. She knifed him, or she pulled the knife on him after the show. So that shit does happen out here. But I think on the East Coast, people just are a little more confrontational than they are on the West Coast, you know?
I was at a show in the Bronx. I'm not going to mention names. He's from Chicago. After the show, he got slapped in the face, and she called her man on the phone. Yo, there are some dudes, man. They are gluttons for punishment. And I was driving one of my mentors, and he gave me the keys to his car. He said, "Go to my car and I'll meet up with you." He kind of kept me out of harm's way. And I didn't do anything, but I was another white dude. It was just me and Chicago white.
Oh, was the guy from Chicago was a white comic?
Yeah.
Oh, see, he should have just got the fuck out of there. I don't know what he was thinking. Glutton for punishment is the way. Yeah, that's about.
We're not going to guess who it was, but let me say this: my experience as an urban comedian has been wonderful with virtually the whole comedy community here. They've booked me. They brought me along level to level. Of course, there's always going to be at least one knucklehead who hates on you because he perceives that you're taking his booking or whatever. And I say, well, write a new joke after 20 years, you know, so.
Oh man, there's going to be people like that no matter what circles you run in. To be honest, I think I probably encountered fewer because I was coming through black rooms than I would have if I'd been in white rooms. You know, people weren't as competitive with me because I was a white guy, maybe because I wasn't in their lane, perhaps. You know.
Yo, all I know is I am very thankful and grateful to be an urban comedian because they made me Barry Ribs, because I'm getting a lot of love now on mainstream because of being an urban comedian. When I started, I was up against age discrimination because when you're 19 and Steve Lolli, you're graded on potential. When you're older, 30, 40 years old, you're graded on, yo. And when the club owner said, I was too old for his club for many years. I didn't realize I was being graded on a different scale, you know? And now that club owner, not necessarily by him, I've done his club 8 times in the last, say, 5 years. So I humbly say this, I could perform on any stage in the world. I also look at myself as a closer now. This pandemic and this new year and this birthday have all kind of coincided, and I don't even know if that's the word, Steve. I look at myself differently now. I'm not that dude who wants to feature guest spot for a superstar for no pay. I've done that already. I've done that. I don't want to do a guest spot out of the love of going 100 miles south or east for the love and do guest spots. The
Dude,
pandemic,
you could become overnight, you could become very, very, very well known, and then you're being flown out first class for a weekend in a theater. I mean, you don't know how show business is like that, where you go from being unknown, you get in something and you get on something, and you obviously there's only one of you, kind of like Eddie. I mean, Eddie obviously is probably one of the 2 or 3 greatest stand-up comedians in the world, but as a person, there's only one Barry Ribs. That's why I want to have you on. And other people will see that, right? And someone's going to put you in something, and you just have this Rodney Dangerfield fame that comes to a guy when he's a little older, and you don't have to drive 400 miles in a car to do a 15-minute opening spot. So I can see that happening.
yo, Steve, when you've been abused in your childhood, you obviously bring that mentality into your career. And I certainly need to revisit psychotherapy, frankly. Matter of fact, on stage lately, the crowd gets a kick out of the vulnerability. I say to them, I'm a sensitive man. It always gets it gets a good kind of response because it's Richard Pryor like, where you can just peel away a layer. I've been resistant because a part of me is loner and private. And as you move up in this game, your public figure label starts to become in big capital letters. Right now, I'm a public figure where a lot of comedians know me around this country. So the whole quest now is for the public to get to know me and buy the ticket, as you mentioned. So I'm going to be out in Arizona this year. My dude is going to self-finance his own creation, web series, and he's for real. And I like the premise of the web series. And if I'm part of it, and I think the script may be by committee a little bit, which I kind of like in a way. And he's a friend. So that's exciting. That's exciting for my career. And I'm on the radar with a real movie maker who his film just came out with Tiffany, matter of fact, about a month ago. And when you're veterans like me and you gotta, within your power, you gotta start to maneuver and place the chess pieces.
Indeed.
Where you have more exposure and more yeses coming towards you. And the game has changed where you could produce your own shit. You don't have to stay by the phone, if you will. But ultimately, everything I do from now until the end of my life I have to really feel it. Otherwise, I'm just going to give it 90%, and I like to give 200%.
Well, it is the business is breaking down and changing. And in the Bible, it says last will be first, first will be last. I don't know where that is in the Bible because I'm not quite enough of a scholar, but I believe in all that. I think this year, especially in the comedy game,
Yeah.
more so than any field in entertainment, the comedy game's really been deeply affected by the pandemic. The people who were in power, clubs, I mean, so many places closed and so many new promoters and producers are popping up, and littler clubs and backyard shows and independent stuff is coming up. So something is happening. Indeed, I can't say I'm not, I'm not the omniscient. I don't know what it exactly is, but maybe it's your time. Hey, let us know where we can find you so we can everyone, my 50 devoted watch people who check this thing out on a weekly basis can follow you on social media where they can check you out.
And Steve, let's do a part 2 down the road because there's so much more. And I really enjoy this because I'm really big on respect, and I'm glad we finally, you and I, you've been, yeah, I kind of remember you laughing at my shit on Facebook years ago, which is kind of fucked up that I could hear a laugh on some typed letters, but or some smiley faces or whatever. Facebook and social media is such a alternative universe. But I know you've been following me. I vaguely remember. That's where the fucked up memory is. I know you've been knowing of me and my posts, maybe as long as I've been on Facebook, which I have no idea when I first went on Facebook.
Well, it was Ribs Rants. It was Ribs Rants. And I that's the perfect time now to give a shout out to the guy who actually, because it was word of mouth. It was word of mouth. It was a comedian named Scott Lavelle who I actually graduated high school with, who is also a stand-up, who is in New York, I believe, or was in New York, and he was the one who turned me on to you. So big shout out to Scotty.
Scotty, is it Scotty Lavelle who has anesthesiologist background?
Yeah, and he produced shows, I think, in his, speaking of what we're talking about, I think he was producing shows around New York, like right out of his house or his apartment or something like that.
Yeah, I did that. I did that once. And then he came up with something, Steve. And then the pandemic came. He had a project and he invited me to be part of it. And he's a real smart dude, and he's weirder than you and I, but that's another story.
Hey, but we got him a shout out here.
Scotty Lavelle, man. He between having children and everything else, very few dudes can wear a.
You, brother. That was how I found you. So that was how I found you to begin with.
Because he put me on that project, and it was a good look, but like you said about time and stuff, the pandemic just he had people interested in his project. I forget what the premise was, but he did include me. Anyways, my social media shit. Let me start by saying fuck Facebook.
Well, it's Barry Ribs on Facebook. Where else?
Fuck that. Fuck that. The important one, and I don't give a shit about the number of followers. Like everybody plays that game. I'm so behind on followers. I don't give a fuck. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, thanks to my manager.
Just at Barry Ribs on all of those?
Yeah, I think it's the easy way to, it pops up somehow. I'm not a tech.
Barry's like, I don't know how you're gonna find me, but you know my name. Go on the fucking platform
and do the fucking work.
Yeah.
Twitter, I know. Twitter, I know it's at Barry Ribs and it's RIBS. And sometimes people leave the S off, and sometimes people double up on the B. They like to spell my name the way they want to fucking spell it. It's at Barry Ribs on Twitter and Barry_Ribs on Instagram and TikTok. Yo, Steve, let's do a part 2 towards the end of the year, man, because there's so much more to talk about.
We'll talk about season 3 because you're the end of season 2. This is season 2.
There you go.
On right now, so we'll get you on again.
Yo, thanks for having me, man. I love this conversation because it's an intelligent one, because I respect intelligence.
Well, Barry, thanks for coming on, brother, and we'll get you on again soon. And I appreciate you representing New York.
And when I get to LA, when LA is inviting, because I know some comics are getting the fuck out of Dodge. I've loved my 2 last visits to LA. So when I get to LA, who knows when, I'm going to hit you up.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. You know how to reach me. Hey, No Idea Zone, go follow Barry Ribs, one of the most unique, funny dudes on the East Coast or anywhere in the country. Follow him, buy a ticket to his show, and thanks for joining us, Barry. We'll see you guys, everybody. No Idea Zone. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much, Steve. My pleasure.
Your brother.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed whatever you saw on our channel today. Make sure to like, comment, and share everything you see here. And please hit that big red subscribe button. You have no idea how much it helps the No Idea Zone every time you hit that button. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next installment of the No Idea Zone.